Survival horror games have been absolutely killing it lately, and we're not just talking about the body count. There's something special about a game that can make you feel like you're constantly one wrong move away from a game over screen, while still giving you just enough tools to survive the nightmare. From remakes that breathe new life into classics to fresh experiences that push the genre forward, these titles have managed to deliver the perfect blend of terror, tension, and satisfying gameplay. So today, we're counting down the 10 best survival horror games that totally delivered on their promises and then some.
Shit, coming in too hot. He's gonna smash us into the hull. Aim for that emergency stabilizer. There, the blue light.
To start off this list, we have the Dead Space remake. Although I was totally of two minds whether this needed to exist at all, ultimately it's one hell of a freaking game. It's a Dead Space game. We love the Dead Space games. It also is a good capital R remake. It's not a lazy money grab. It's not just copied and pasted over. It puts a lot of love into the original game to make it feel more in line with some of the sequels, add and bolster the lore, and there are even some special surprises for die-hard fans. But most importantly, it made the original game just as good as it always was, but a little bit better and brings it to a new audience. Sure, I mean, some people hope for like a new game announcement or a re-release of some type to spark new interest, and then maybe we'll get Dead Space 4. We don't really know if that's ever going to happen at this point, but the reality is that we do still, at least for right now, have a remake that feels fresh, even though it's still essentially the same 2008 game. It's still that action horror experience ripe with memorable moments, amazing atmosphere, and a sense of weight and impact. It's just as immersive as it was the first time around, but just better. Plus, with some little things thrown in like expanded characters, new audio diaries, and it just looks really good. It looks fantastic. Still, for as many people that complain about remakes or whatever, this is a celebration of a good game. It's great that we have both. This isn't necessarily a replacement of the original, so I say the more, the better.
Max, we got trouble.
What's up?
We've been boarded.
Oh shit. Is the other way?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Coming in next, we have the Callisto Protocol. This is another more recent survival horror game that a lot of people pass up and write off as just a Dead Space ripoff, or Dead Space Light, or just not as good as Dead Space, but I still think it totally delivers. I think it's a great horror experience, and even if it's just more Dead Space, I mean, Dead Space is freaking great. We need more games like Dead Space. When you don't get a lot of good ones like that, I'll take what I can get. The Callisto Protocol is actually still its own thrilling and terrifying ride. It is worth everything. I think the issue was the game was a little short for the asking price, and yes, it doesn't do anything really particularly new. It's got a fairly typical future space prison-type setting cliche alongside some other horror movie cliches. But I loved how they were all implemented. I still found that they worked really well. The combat and controls were interesting and unique. Enemy design, along with everything else I said, I think it deserves to be celebrated for some of the things it at least did differently and uniquely to stand out. Now, while some of the mechanics weren't the most refined and sometimes a little frustrating, the game was fraught with interesting mechanics, a fun, over-the-top story, and great visuals. I also found that it presented enough of a challenge and enough replay value. Yes, they eventually added a DLC chapter that really pushes things a little bit crazier, but even without that, Callisto Protocol was a great, challenging horror romp well worth any survival horror enthusiast's time. For some people, this might not make it onto a list like this, but for me, it's one that really 100% totally delivered.
Shit.
Next, we have The Evil Within. This new series was developed by Shinji Mikami, one of the original creative forces behind some of the Resident Evil games, and he actually directed this one. The Evil Within is interesting because by 2014, we didn't have a lot of survival horror games besides Dead Space. The Evil Within kinda came at a good time. It really blended the long dormant ideas and formulas of the classic survival horror games with more of the newer aspects of them, creating a mix of survival horror and action. It just gives it a unique identity of its own. It's a messy game, it's a really weird, nonsensical game, but it also is just really awesome and at the time had really cool graphics and some excellent monster design with gruesome bosses. It has tight control and fun weapons. It owes a lot to a lot of games that came before it, but it takes those individual inspirations and actually throws them all together in a unique way and has its own presentation style, and it delivers real good. Sure, the oddball story behind the two main characters is a little bit all over the place, but I mean, it's still worth experiencing. It also has some great DLC campaigns, but just the main game is enough. Like I said, the game is all over the place, which sometimes works for it and sometimes doesn't. There is a little bit too much blood all over the screen, or too much distortion effects, or too much of everything. But at the same time, when the pace really kicks into gear, it really delivers some satisfying, interesting, and surprisingly creative horror moments all the way from beginning to end. It's an admittedly divisive game. Like, some people love it, some people hate it, but I think we can all agree that it's at least worth experiencing on your own. Next on the list is Alan Wake 2. Yes, I'm including this one here. If you're a seasoned viewer, you know I don't really always love throwing the newest, shiniest game on a video list like this of our channel. People tend to overreact and overblow how good a new game is, but Alan Wake 2 is incredible. Take this from a skeptic, although I liked the original Alan Wake game, I didn't know where the hell a sequel was going to go, but Remedy pretty much realized its final evolution as a developer and just did it all right here in this game. Not only bringing the original game into the future with gameplay improvements, mechanics, and graphics, and also some cool survival horror fundamentals with inventory management and weapon equipping and all that, but also telling a really interesting, creative story that satisfies the original game plus Control in a really interesting, Madman Unified Universe type of way, but somehow they actually pull it off. As one of those middle-aged gamer, I was like skeptical, like I said, but they pulled it off here big time. The game feels fantastic to play, great enemy types, great weapons, just great adventure and great horror. And by the end, once it all culminates, man, Remedy absolutely blew it out of the water with this one. Hard recommend from us at absolutely anybody and everybody looking for a great video game to play. Yes, I think it's technically still buzzing and you might want to wait for a patch, but the experience is so absolutely worth it.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
Hey, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Next up, we have the Silent Hill 2 remake, another masterclass in how to respectfully and faithfully reboot an older survival horror game. As much as we love 2001's Silent Hill 2, this remake does not override it. And if anything, it respects it, it reveres it, and makes people respect and revere it even more. The remake is essentially the same game beat for beat. It even has the same bonus endings from the original, including the dog ending and the UFO ending. It's essentially the game, but with all the technical hindrances, some of the nonsense of the past kind of brushed over. It's updated graphics, excellent voice work, updated sound design. Everything feels similar to the original. The same oppressive, disturbing sense of atmosphere, a great sense of quiet dread that permeates every inch of that foggy town, the incredible sound design by Akira Yamaoka. It is just all here. It's very rare to see what makes the original game great preserved in the remake, and I think that's the ended delivery here. Sure, some hardcore fans feel like this one didn't quite nail it. It's got a few pacing issues here and there, like the hospital sections are a little too prolonged. Some of the physics are a bit weird, but everything else around it is actually really, really good. Plus, it also releases on PC, so more people can mod the hell out of it. But putting it on this list next to something like the Dead Space remake, it's a different story. I feel like the Silent Hill 2 remake feels more like just a faithful adaptation in comparison to the original, while Dead Space still holds the edge in terms of like a real expansion of the original concept. But that doesn't stop Silent Hill 2 from being really fun, really creepy, and a great look into the past of what used to make survival horror games tick in the older days of the genre. Up next is the Resident Evil 8 Village. The sequel to Resident Evil 7 is a surprisingly good one that took a lot of people off guard. Of course, with more Resident Evil energy this time around, Resident Evil Village bolstered a robust and compelling campaign that makes it super easy to want to go back and replay the game. Yes, Resident Evil 7 is amazing, but Resident Evil 8 gives you more weapons, more action horror, and also a lot of different changing environments that mix different variations of horror. So it makes going back and playing it really exciting. It also just really immerses you from start to finish. Yes, some of the main story stuff gets a little silly. The main character, Ethan Winters, and his dialogue is oftentimes atrocious. But everything else about Resident Evil Village really nails it, and it ultimately feels like a celebration of all the good things about the Resident Evil series. Yes, I get it. Some people wanted pure horror like 7, but 8 is a bit of an everything game. I mean, let's not forget, Resident Evil 7 had some shooting, especially towards the end of that one. But 8 brings it back with the zombies and really compelling bad guys, our main antagonist that rivals some of the things we saw in other Resident Evil games with great presentation, atmosphere, and excellent voice acting. I mean, obviously, come on, Lady Dimitrescu almost became more famous than the game she's in right here. But Resident Evil Village is just a blast. There have also been a lot of cool mods on PC. There are some weird ones because, like I said, people are crazy about Lady D, but the breadth and depth of this game and all the things they added later, it's just awesome.
So, your uncle. What's wrong with him?
He's possessed.
As in the devil?
Coming in next, we have the 2024 Alone in the Dark reboot. This one legit surprised me. I'm not saying that because it's a newer game or anything. I'm saying it because Alone in the Dark as a franchise is messy. It has some good games and it has some not so good games. But I think what this reboot, reimagining, whatever you want to call it, does do is it changes up the formula from the older Alone in the Dark games, but captures the essence and the vibe of those older games, particularly the first one, in a modern way, and it nails it. The strange, weird, surreal horror juxtaposed with pulpy action-adventure elements, it is all here and really well voice acted by David Harbour and Jodie Comer. It all just comes together really well. Yes, it's a pretty short game, but because there's 2 characters to play through, along with the fact that it's also just a good, fun game to play if you want to re-experience the weird story, the city of New Orleans, the bayou, all of it, it's fun by today's standards. Plus, in true old-school horror game fashion, if you drink an energy drink while playing this game, or coffee, or whatever, there's a good chance you're going to finish it in a weekend or a really, really long evening. There's something to old-school survival horror games like that. If anything, what kept them going or keeping them around was making them nice, compact, little tidy packages that are easy to replay or just finish quickly and still enjoy. I've played through the newer Alone in the Dark several times since it's been released, and I think it's a super fun game. Now, it doesn't quite top those older game experiences that I played growing up as a kid, but I think that's kind of impossible. The nostalgia glasses, everything, plus also just the incredible importance of those older games. The game alone invented the term survival horror, so if we're talking about some of the golden standard type games on this list in the newer modern games, it's pretty cool that we got this reboot on here.
You hear something? I hear something. Excellent.
Up next, we have Alien Isolation. This is an incredible survival horror game from 2014 that honestly a lot of people didn't play, like casual gamers, just general gamers or whatever. This one kind of flew under the radar. Thankfully, there's been a slow build of interest around it over the years. People have gone back to it. It was on Game Pass at one point because this game really just frickin' nails it. Just taking the survival horror genre and wedging in nostalgia and the feeling of Ridley Scott's original Alien movie is just pure genius. And here, they actually nailed the execution of it. The spacesuit, the tech, the gear, the environments, all of it feels like an incredible recreation of that movie from the 70s. It just looks and feels like it, even if you're playing it on modern hardware years and years and years later, they just absolutely nailed it. Also, shout out to the fact that you can have all the directional HUD information stuff in this game to be mapped onto Amanda Ripley, your main character, her in-game HUD. The stuff she's looking at on screen in her game is the same thing you're looking at, and I love little immersive details like that, and this game just lives on that stuff. Now, some people will say the game does overstay its welcome. It's a little too long, but the attention to detail, the environments to explore, the items to scrounge up and slowly build, just a general sense of survival in this spaceship feels really good. The only downside is that it didn't get a sequel. This game absolutely, by any and all means necessary, needed a sequel. Thankfully, last year the developer confirmed that a sequel to Alien Isolation is in early development and more details will be released once they're ready. This is great news, not just for me, but for a lot of Alien Isolation fans.
I see. Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle. Guard your life, son. You have a calling.
Next up is the original Outlast. In a time when first-person survival horror games were starting to gain popularity, a lot because of YouTubers and Twitch, the folks behind Outlast decided to make something that wasn't just a good game for streamers to play or whatever, but also just a good game, period. The original Outlast is one of the most effective survival horror games in recent memory. It is a true original, sometimes often copied, sometimes not successfully, with comparisons to Slenderman and so on and so forth. Outlast nailed it with hiding in lockers, hiding in rooms, and avoiding big, spooky monsters while only being able to see them through the lens of your camera that helps you see in darkness. It just has so many great moments. It's a short, bite-sized, pretty morbid, good horror game. It's just absolutely one that totally delivers. It's really creepy, and I'm really glad to see more and more people keep going back to it over the years. Also, just gotta point out, the DLC pack here is really, really good. At this point, you can get the Outlast Trinity collection pretty cheap, and it has like this game, the DLC, and the full sequel. Outlast 2 doesn't quite hit as hard as the original, but I mean, why not just buy the full collection if you're interested in playing these games? Just start with the original. It'll keep you creeped out and keep you really satisfied.
I'll get you back to safety. Just hold on to me.
Now, down at number 1, we have Amnesia the Bunker, the latest in the Amnesia lineup launched in 2023. It's another survival horror game that really freaking nails it. This time around, the game is less story-driven than older Amnesia games and more about gameplay and atmosphere. And really, atmosphere is the thing that this game totally nails. As someone who loves World War I history and World War II history and all that stuff, I also just like it when video games choose to explore it or show it in a different way, and the Amnesia games, every time, choose to go to the past. You know, rather than make a survival horror game set on spaceships or in a city in the year 2050 or whatever, Amnesia the Bunker puts you in a French battleground during World War I, and you're in this creepy outpost bunker area, exploring, trying to just survive, and experiencing the weird spookiness and this crazy monster that is going to kill you in one hit if you're not careful. The way they do storytelling in this one is cool. It's a Metroidvania-like progression system, very unpredictable AI, like clocking your progress. You can do things differently every time you have a run, and just a good feeling of desperation. Ammo is scarce, inventory space is really small, you're always kind of just scrambling on edge, and it makes it a horror game that's a little bit different from the rest of the pack. Really, honestly, all the Amnesia games are worth it, depending on what you like from a horror game.